Welcome one and all to First Parish in Needham, a Unitarian Universalist congregation founded in 1711 along with our town. We are proud to have earned the designations of an LGBTQ welcoming congregation, a climate justice seeking green sanctuary, and a level 2 sanctuary supporting congregation for immigration justice. Whoever you are, whatever your background, and wherever you're watching this from, you are welcome. I am Reverend Katie Scudera, and I have been the lead minister of First Parish since 2014. I am honored to serve this faith community with an incredible team of religious professionals and remarkable and dedicated lay leaders. Today, we are thrilled to welcome back some of our youth group alumni to lead this morning's service. As always, it has been a pleasure to support them in creating this service, and they have inspirational words and music to share with the whole community. Of course, we are disappointed not to greet these great young adults in person here in the meeting house, but First Parish is continuing with virtual services and programming to protect our congregation and our neighbors from the COVID-19 pandemic. You can learn all about what's happening at First Parish by going to our website, uuneedham.org, or by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. To receive Zoom links, please sign up for our weekly email newsletter by going to our website and clicking Get Involved Newsletter, or by sending your request to office@uuneedham.org. We also know that this past week has been a horrifying time in our nation's history, when a sitting president has continued to promote lies, demeaning our electoral process, and support insurrection and terrorism against other elected officials, journalists, and liberals writ large. As Unitarian Universalists at First Parish, we gather together to offer each other comfort in light of personal and global woes, and to shore up our courage to work for our values, for a fair and free democracy, for the interconnected web of all existence of which we are a part, and for dismantling the white, colonialist, heteropatriarchal supremacy that plagues our world and has for centuries. Welcome to all of you joining in this Sunday's service and in our congregation's mission to work for social and environmental justice locally and throughout the world. If you're watching this service as it live streams, please take a moment now to say hello and introduce yourself in the chat box. I'm glad that you're here.
I'm Finn Harrington, and I graduated from high school this past spring. Now I'm a first-year college student at Brown. As we light our chalice, symbol of our faith, we read words from Unitarian Universalist lay leader Sean Trapp. Our chalice reminds us that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe. It is our reminder that all is connected, even though the space of the void is vast, and our experience here is but a blip in the cosmic timeline. This flame is our promise that in our own smallness and our own short time on this earth, that we live intently and deeply, with love for one another, with honesty and integrity, to be guided by rational thought and critical thinking, and with a sense of shared responsibility. For as the late astronomer Carl Sagan reminded us, this pale blue dot is the only home we've ever known.
Our opening hymn, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, was written by 20th century composer Louise Raspini, who based the first verse of the hymn on Psalm 100. Please join in singing from home, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Open your ears to Good morning. I'm Gwen Mexis, and I bridged from First Parish in 2017. Now I'm a senior at Tufts University. In Unitarian Universalist tradition, the covenant is a set of promises the membership of the Church strives to honor with one another and out in the world. Please say it along with me from your home, the words of our First Parish covenant as shown on your screen. We gather as a loving community to encourage and comfort one another. We gather as a diverse community to support each other in our search for spiritual truth. We gather as a service community to live our beliefs through action and care for our world.
I can do hard things. Mindful Affirmations for Kids by Gabby Garcia. I don't always feel brave, confident, or strong. Sometimes it's easier to follow others along. I get so many messages about how I should be. Pulled in different directions, I feel wobbly. When this happens, I listen for that quiet voice inside, and when I pay attention, that voice is my guide. I connect with the love and strength it brings. It helps me remember I can do hard things. I can be a friend to myself. I can feel all my feelings. I can ask for help. It's okay. I can try again. Rather than give up, I can believe in myself. I can speak up when it would be easier to stay quiet. And I can say no, even to my friends. I can apologize. Say sorry. I can also forgive. I can listen and understand different points of view. I can care for my community. I can choose kindness. I can practice peace. I can share my gifts with the world. I can be myself. Hard things can be about what we think, feel, say, or do. What's hard for me may not be hard for you. You are you, and I am me. We walk through the world differently. Trusting my voice helps me find my way. I grow braver and stronger every day. The tough stuff I face is all my own, but I can also remember I'm not alone. I'm ready for the hard things I have to do. And please remember, so are you. You can do anything you put your mind to, even the hard things. We hope you loved the book.
It is now time to share with one another our joys and concerns from the past week. These joys and concerns were submitted to me at internminister@uuneedham.org by the Thursday before the service at midnight. If you did not submit a candle but would like to share with the community this morning, you are invited to enter your message into the chat box. As our service is live streamed to YouTube, we cannot guarantee that your joys, concerns, sorrows, or milestones will stay within the First Parish community, but you are always welcome to reach out to Reverend Katie, myself, or the Pastoral Care Associate of the Week, whose name is included in your emailed order of service, for pastoral care or to share more privately. If you're missing hearing each other's voices during this beloved ritual, may this also serve as a reminder to reach out to one another after the service. May this beloved community be sustained by your creativity and care for each other during this time. Our first candle is a mixed candle of sorrow and appreciation from Florence and Sam Graves. We are mourning the passing of our dear, longtime Needham friend, Sarah Martin Munley. A distinguished scientist and pharmaceutical executive, Sarah was an engaged and generous advocate for human rights and gender equality, a reflection of her deeply held spiritual values. Please hold her beloved husband, John, in your thoughts and prayers this week. Our next and last candle this morning is a candle of deep concern from the First Parish staff about the violent insurrection and coup attempt that occurred on Wednesday afternoon at the U.S. Capitol, and that was intimately connected with the current president's months-long campaign to convince supporters that the election was in some way rigged. We are troubled by the violence, by the role that the person in the highest office in our country played, by the affront to our democracy, and by the lack of response by Capitol security and police toward this mostly white mob. As Unitarian Universalists, we recommit ourselves toward democratic processes, decrying violence and dismantling racism in ourselves and our institutions. And as your First Parish staff, we are committed to working for justice in the long haul. For all the joys and sorrows that we still hold in our hearts, and in acknowledging the prayers of our neighbors near and far, we light a final candle. May the peace in this sanctuary be felt too in each of your homes, as we remember that even though apart, we are still deeply connected. Amen.
Hi everyone, I'm Annika Harrington. I graduated in 2018 and I'm currently a sophomore at Williams College, where I am studying some undecided mixture of English, history, and environmental studies. I'm also in the symphony and on the Ultimate Frisbee team. Please join me now in the spirit of prayer and meditation with these words from modern queer Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Robin Tanner. Today we share in a blessing for losers, risk-takers, all failures far and wide. Blessed are they who fall in the mud, who jump with gusto and rip the pants, who skin the elbows and bruise the ego, for they shall know the sweetness of risk. Blessed are they who make giant mistakes, whose intentions are good but impact is injured, who know the hot sense of regret and ask for mercy, for their hearts will know the gift of forgiveness. Blessed are they who have seen a D or an F or any letter less than perfect, who are painfully familiar with the red pen and the labels as less than, for they know the wisdom in the imperfect. Blessed are they who try again, who dust off, who wash up, who extend the wish for peace, who return to sites of failure, who are dogged in their pursuit, for they will discover the secret to dreams. Blessed are they who refuse to listen to the naysayers, for their hearts will be houses for hope. Blessed are they who see beyond the surface of another, for they will be able to delight in the gift of compassion. Blessed are they who stop running the race to help a fellow traveler, who pick up the fallen, who stop for injured life, for they shall know the kindness of strangers. Blessed are they who wildly, boldly abandon winning, for they shall know the path of justice. Amen. Please now join in singing from home our meditation response for all that is our life.
Build the common others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love. We come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass. We come with praise and thanks for all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use, to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Our reading today comes from modern queer soccer player and author Abby Wambach. Leadership is volunteering at the local school, speaking encouraging words to a friend, and holding the hand of a dying parent. It's tying dirty shoelaces and going to therapy and saying to our family and friends, "No, we don't do unkindness here." It's signing up to run for the school board, and it's driving that single mom's kid home from practice, and it's creating boundaries that prove to the world that you value yourself. Leadership is taking care of yourself and empowering others to do the same. Leadership is not a position to earn, it's an inherent power to claim. Leadership is the blood that runs through your veins, it's born in you. It's not the privilege of a few, it's the right and responsibility of all. Leader is not a title that the world gives to you. It's an offering that you give to the world.
This congregation has been supported by the volunteered time and treasure of its members and friends since its founding in 1711. This is the time in our service when we ask for all of you, the modern stewards of this church, to offer what you can to build and sustain the congregation and the world that we envision. This month, our collections will be split 50-50 with Canasta Solidaria, Solidarity Basket. The Metro West Worker Center and the Metro West Immigrant Solidarity Network has put together this video to explain their new Canasta Solidaria project.
Arroz y frijoles, rice and beans, plátanos, papas y cebollas, plantains, potatoes and onions, huevos, naranjas y chiles, eggs, oranges, and hot peppers. Simple but essential foods for our immigrant neighbors. Food that is more difficult to afford since the pandemic began.
When the pandemic hit, immigrant workers were amongst the first to lose their jobs. Many of them are not eligible for state or federal relief, leaving their families really in a very precarious position.
That's where Canasta Solidaria, or Solidarity Basket, comes in. We provide culturally appropriate grocery staples to immigrant families in Framingham and Milford. At Canasta, families not only receive the food they know and want to cook, they receive it in their own language from faces and voices that look and sound like theirs.
For a community forced to live at the margins of society and barraged by dehumanizing policies and practices, that is no small thing. Canasta is a project of the Metro West Worker Center, Casa del Trabajador, Casa do Trabalhador, and the Metro West Immigrant Solidarity Network.
We train workers to know and defend their rights. We organize to reclaim stolen wages. We advocate for more just laws. We accompany injured workers through the medical and legal processes, and create spaces for culturally appropriate healing. We educate allies so that they can demand that their contractors, companies, and communities value and respect the invaluable contributions of immigrant labor.
Allies, we need your support now to continue the Canasta project. By the end of the summer, we were serving 450 families out of our distribution in Framingham and another 100 families in Milford, spending almost $20,000 a month. As families have been able to return to work, the intensity of the need lessened, and we took a break in the early fall to regroup and find new space, new funding. Nonetheless, we anticipate the need to grow over the winter as jobs dry up and the pandemic worsens.
Your support will make it possible for these families to survive the rough times ahead. Thank you. We couldn't do this without you.
To donate to today's offering, you can use one of three methods. You can use our Text to Give program through the number 73256 with the exact wording of UU Needham space plate or Pledge 21 space $ and the amount you want to give. You can mail a check to First Parish at 23 Dedham Avenue. Or you can make a donation through our website, uuneedham.org, and select Donate Now under the Giving box. Whichever way, remember to specify whether your donation is meant for the plate collection or for your annual pledge. Thank you for everything you are able to give to help support and sustain this congregation and the vital work of our community partners. Please take these next few moments to give what you can and know that it will be gratefully received.
Hi everyone, I'm Cassie Bailey and I graduated in 2018. I'm now third year at the University of Virginia majoring in public policy and global studies. I've never been able to participate in an alumni service before because I'm usually back at school by now, so I'm really excited to be able to speak with everyone today. I'm going to share a little bit about how being intentional in the way that I think and speak about myself has really helped me to grow, and I encourage all of you to embrace intentional self-talk as well. I'm not a runner. I used to say these words constantly to my athletic track teammates, my friends eager to explore a new city on foot, or anyone who asked me to run in their charity 5K. It wasn't just an excuse to avoid physical activity, although it turned out to be pretty convenient for those purposes too. I genuinely believed that I wasn't capable of running, or at least not capable of running fast enough to keep up with my peers. It's not like I never tried. I did track sophomore year of high school and would go for jogs with friends in college. When I started to feel the slightest exhaustion, instead of pushing through, I would convince myself that I had reached inevitable failure. I would fall behind, shouting apologies to my running mates as they forged ahead. I'm not a morning person. My mom used to say this often. While my dad is a total early bird gets the worm type of guy, my mom has always been a big night owl. It's not like she would ever sleep in terribly late, but the idea of waking up with, or even before, the sun was never something that she considered possible. I'm not a runner. I'm not a morning person. I'm terrible with names. I'm horrible with directions. I just don't get technology. Whether it's something you've said about yourself or something you've heard others say, these phrases are all too common. And while it might be true that my running pace was never as fast as my friends, or that my mom was more productive working at night than in the morning, these phrases are far from harmless. I recently read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, which I highly recommend. Throughout the book, he discusses a multitude of ways to create new habits and break old ones. One critical part of maintaining a habit is allowing it to become a part of your identity. For example, if you want to start tidying up your home, you should think of yourself as a neat person. This is the problem with phrases like, I'm not a runner, or I'm not a morning person. Clear says, quote, when you have repeated a story to yourself for years, it is easy to slide into these mental grooves and accept them as a fact. In time, you begin to resist certain actions because that's not who I am. There is internal pressure to maintain your self-image and behave in a way that is consistent with your beliefs. You find whatever way you can to avoid contradicting yourself. When I felt the exhaustion 5 minutes into a run, I convinced myself to stop because to keep going would conflict with the idea that I wasn't a runner. My mom would hit the snooze button rather than get out of bed because getting out of bed conflicted with her identity as not a morning person. The good news is that although it's hard to get out of these patterns of thinking, it's not impossible. I recently decided that no matter how slow or strenuous my runs may be, I am a runner. I'm currently training for a half marathon, and I'm improving every day. Against all odds, my mom now regularly attends the 5:30 a.m. class at CrossFit and loves it. While neither of us expected to be where we are today, we were intentional about improving our mindsets and therefore improved our lives. In the month of January, we are focusing on our intentions. While our intentions may not deliver immediate results, they drive our actions and our habits and eventually influence our identity. I urge everyone to think intentionally about the way that they speak about themselves, particularly when it comes to negative self-talk. Are these things actually true, or do you say them because it's easier than challenging yourself and potentially failing? While these phrases offer comfort and convenient excuses, they also hinder growth. Rather than identifying with your downfalls, use them as lessons and opportunities for growth. I want to clarify that there are some things that we might never be able to achieve. I'll probably never run a 7-minute mile. My mom might never wake up early every single day. And many people face obstacles in life that might prevent them from achieving conventional standards of success. But these metrics are arbitrary, and it's important to understand that your metrics of success may never look the same as others. In fact, the result of your actions is the least important part of this whole thing. What's critical is your intentions, your mindset that shape your identity. Whether you are trying to avoid an uncomfortable situation, pointing out flaws you believe you have, or simply making conversation, negative self-talk is damaging. Although you might not be successful in everything you do, be intentional about the way you approach failure. In this new year, go out and challenge yourself. Do something you never thought you would be able to do, and begin to identify yourself as who you want to be. Improving your mindset might not improve your performance, but it will help you become a better person. Be intentional with yourself and choose kindness, choose growth, choose self-love. Thank you. Unitarian Susan B. Anthony once wrote, "Forget conventionalisms. Forget what the world thinks of you stepping out of your place. Think your best thoughts, speak your best words, work your best works, look for your own conscience for approval." I'm at a really exciting time of my life. I'm about to graduate college. I get to spend the next however many years exploring all that the world has to offer and making decisions about how I want to spend my working career. My mom and my grandmother tell me all the time, your 20s are one of the most exciting parts of your life. You have so many doors to open, so many opportunities to pursue, so much freedom to explore. And as exciting as this time is, it can also be really scary and intimidating. While I grew up in a household where I know I would have been wholeheartedly supported if I chose not to pursue a traditional college degree, I like school, 4 more years of it seemed like a no-brainer. When I got to Tufts, I was anticipating having to make a big decision about my major, but I went in thinking I'd study international relations, and taking the intro course confirmed that international relations would be what I studied. So making this decision of what's next, what am I doing after college, has been the biggest unknown I've yet to face. Since last January, I've spent a fair amount of time and mental energy contemplating this. A year ago, I had no idea what would come next. I could see so many possibilities. And for a somewhat type A person like myself, who at least likes some direction, this decision, this time to explore, did not seem very exciting at all, despite my mother's best efforts to advertise it as such. So I did what any type A person does. I did my research. I garnered advice from friends and family, mentors, and people I look up to. Really quickly, I realized most of the people I was talking to had their own idea of what was best for me. Mentors from previous internships all encouraged me to go in a direction that they had gone. My friends, all of whom I love dearly, also had their input. Those going to New York all thought working as a paralegal sounded great. Convenient that pursuing such a path would ensure I'd apply for a lot of jobs in the Big Apple, a city I was not really considering otherwise. Every professor I talked to pointed me in a different direction. Some Tufts alum encouraged me to focus on money, pursue paths that would be lucrative, because that would help me in 10 years. Meanwhile, I was immersed in a liberal college campus where starting your career as a, quote, sellout in corporate America is equated to aligning yourself with the devil. The noise really added up, and the conflicting advice was hard to decipher. It was ironic, too, because I sought this advice hoping that I would be told what to do and that it would all become clear, but it did the opposite. I just became overwhelmed. Gradually, I realized that I needed to be more intentional about what I was allowing to guide this decision. First and foremost, I needed to ensure that I was deriving the decision based off of my own thoughts and wishes, not the thoughts of those around me. I realized I had to take a page out of Susan B. Anthony's playbook and forget the conventionalisms, forget what the world thought of my decision, and instead guide my choices based off of the approval of my own conscience. I needed to evaluate my own values and contextualize the advice I was receiving from others in the framework of my own priorities, not theirs. Separating myself from what others telling me I should do was liberating. Being intentional about prioritizing my own thoughts, my own desires in this journey was the key to actually making it exciting. And I don't think this lesson is only applicable to young adults about to make their first really consequential life decision. I think being intentional about how you are spending your time and what path you choose is something we all have to do throughout our lives. We all have to decipher between the noise of what we want to be doing and how we want to be spending our time versus what others want us to be doing and how others want us to be spending our time. Prioritizing our own values and decisions is important not just for yourself, but for others around us as well. Not being intentional has consequences. Not actively trying to think your best thoughts, speak your best words, work your best works, and look to your own conscience for approval has consequences. Hang on, I'm about to make a bit of a big jump. While I'm still processing what happened in Washington on Wednesday, I think much of what ensued was a result of numerous senators and representatives not making decisions with their best intentions and in good conscience over the last 4 years. Some probably intentionally aligned with the president to expedite accomplishing their political priorities. Others perhaps unintentionally distorted their values for fear of losing their jobs. Either way, I think they abandoned any effort to make decisions with what they knew to be good intentions. Part of what we saw on Wednesday was a realization of this mistake. I do think that many of the officials who have stood by the president have known what he has repeatedly done since he declared his candidacy to suppress truth, incite hatred, jeopardize democracy, and prioritize himself, his family, and his allies above the American people is unequivocally wrong. The evidence suggesting that they knew better is that 6 out of the 14 senators planning to oppose the Electoral College decided to stand down. The vice president separated himself from the president, and numerous of the president's longtime allies and cabinet members have all abandoned him. While I have no sympathy for these congressmen and other leaders, if there is anything I have learned in the past year, it is that hearing so many conflicting opinions and so many conflicting ideas about what you should be doing is difficult. The reality for many Americans, including American leadership, is that truth in this day and age is hard to decipher. It is covered by noise, and in this case it was compounded by a political pressure mounted by the most powerful man in the world. Rather than sticking to their conscience throughout this presidency, some officials have succumbed to the pressure of bullies who repeatedly lied and fueled false claims and incited violence to amass more power, hoping that siding with these bullies may be politically expedient or personally advantageous. It is shameful and disgraceful that it took an insurrection in our capital to mount this response, and in my book, it is far too little too late. But I do think it indicates a realization on behalf of some leadership that their decisions have consequences. When decisions are made based off of what political allies want, rather than what an individual believes, there are consequences. When, in decision-making, good intentions are forgone, and manipulative intentions of others are prioritized, there are consequences. So, what's next? Where do we go from here? Well, I don't know, and this question is still scary, and scarier when I ask it in the context of our country than when I ask it about myself. How do we as a society act intentionally to get ourselves back on the path of truth and justice, as our 2nd, 5th, and 6th principle call on us to do? As citizens, what decisions will we intentionally make to participate and contribute to our democracy on the eve of this country's transition? These questions are important, and believe it or not, because I think we still have a lot to be hopeful about, I actually think they're exciting. Maybe Mother knows best after all. Instead of dwelling on what happened Wednesday afternoon, think about what happened Wednesday morning in Georgia. Thanks to largely African American organizers, what we saw was the mobilization of hundreds of thousands of voters, many Black, many young, many first-time voters. Regardless of your political ideology, if you believe in democracy and believe that all citizens should have access to the ballot, what we saw in Georgia was good. Georgia was the result of the promise of democracy coming to fruition for many. Turns out some southern states may not actually be red, they may just be suppressed, which means there's more work to do, and there's reason to hope we can actually get it done because in Georgia they just did. So how will we be intentional about taking actions to push our country towards fulfilling its promise of equal justice for all citizens? How will we hold our leadership accountable to both their conscience and their country? How will we intentionally approach our next decision and our next transition? How will we intentionally answer the question, what's next? Now, I wanted today to focus on the journey of intentionally making decisions and approaching transitions, rather than the answer or the outcome. I think the journey is ultimately more important. But personally, I have answered the question, what's next? And I would be happy to talk about it at social hour, after the service, or at some other time. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie and Gwen, for sharing your reflections with us today. Our closing hymn, Gather the Spirit, was written by Euro-American Unitarian Universalist singer-songwriter Jim Scott. Please join in singing from home, Gather the Spirit. We're so grateful again to our youth alum who came together to offer this special annual Sunday service, especially in this unusual virtual environment. They are a blessing to First Parish. As we close our worship today, you are all invited to stay with us for our Zoom social hour, when you can say hello and thank you to our youth alum yourselves. Please remember to keep a careful eye out for emails from First Parish and to follow us on social media so you can keep up with opportunities for connection for all ages throughout the week during these times of physical isolation. Again, you can sign up for our weekly email by clicking on Subscribe to Newsletter on our website, uuneedham.org. Please remember, if you fall ill or need any pastoral support, you can reach out to me and Jenna Crawford and our pastoral care team and caring crew via phone or email. We also encourage all of you strongly to check in with your friends at First Parish and to double-check your own contact information in our online Realm directory, especially if you haven't done so recently. Please email our office administrator, Susanna Whitman, at office@uuneedham.org if you have any questions about using our online directory. We always extinguish our chalice with the words, promising to carry its flame in our hearts until we are together again, no matter how long it is until we are together again. As we extinguish our chalice today, please join me from home in saying these words written by Unitarian Universalist minister, Reverend Elizabeth Selly Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, nor the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts, until we are together again.
Thank you all so much for listening to us this morning. It means so much to be able to share this time with you, and I hope that this service inspires us all to live with more intention. In the words of Jim McGaw, when I say go in peace, I don't mean go in mindless oblivion. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go without challenging yourselves or others. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in utter ease and comfort. When I say go in peace, I mean go in peace seeking justice. I mean go in peace, committed to equal rights and opportunities for all. When I say go in peace, I mean go in peace that is created when, together, we build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, and fierce, unrelenting love. Go in peace. Thank you.